Welcome to the Art Teach video series. In this episode, we explore the art of painting outdoors, known as plein air painting, with local artist Jeanette Ovink.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we're here to do some plein air.
Okay.
So I picked a spot here at the river because it's sort of a Paris known spot. It's a beautiful area, let's face it. It's not the best of days, it's a little bit cloudy, but we have some atmospheric distance happening because of the humidity in the air. So then that means that the background looks further away, which is kind of nice, kind of like a misty thing. So that makes it more enjoyable to paint.
Okay, so we have all the equipment. We're in a beautiful place. Should we go find the spot?
That sounds like a plan. I will put my hat in my bag. I always bring a hat because today is not too bad, but when it's really, really sunny, then the sun in your eyes is actually really unhelpful to paint. So most plein air painters you will see around with wearing a hat.
Perfect.
And I'm one of them. You don't look very lovely when you're painting outdoors.
That's not the important part.
No, I'm not winning the Miss whatever. And then I have another pair of glasses because these change. They're transitional. So I always bring another pair of glasses that don't change color. So I see the color proper the way that they are. So I always bring those.
Okay, so we're in this beautiful spot. How do you choose the right place to set up?
So in the space that I would set up, I would make sure that obviously my viewpoint is what I would like to paint. But secondly, what is important is that I'm not in the way of other people. So obviously we're walking on a path here, which is open for the public. So I would not want to be in the middle of the path because people might either fall over my tripod. I would be just, taking other people's joy away, which is that's not my job.
Somewhere flat.
Yeah, something like this would work. It's flat. I can put my tripod down without, being in the way of people. People could move around me quite easily. They might strike up a conversation, which is its own challenges. But, it's kind of fun and it's kind of nice for people to be seeing what you're doing.
Appreciating the art as it happens.
Yeah, and appreciating the view. And that's what I have found is that when you're painting, people start to look at what it is that you're looking at and sort of go, oh, I'd never seen that. Or, oh, I never realized that was there. Or, they actually see more because they see what you're looking at. So It's kind of interesting.
I think a lot of people might think that plein air is just landscape or waterscape, but there's buildings here and canoes. And so it doesn't have to be a landscape.
No, not at all. Plein air basically means you're painting outdoors. So that could be anything. I mean, that could be your garden. There could be a rock on the side of the road. That could be your neighbor's car. As long as it's outside, it's plein air. So yeah, I don't always paint rural landscape. I paint downtown Paris sometimes because it's fun.
Well, and I assume that it's cityscape or townscape adds some color.
Yes, you get a lot more pop of color because nature, particularly in summertime, is green. So there's not a lot more color than green or maybe ochres, but cityscapes allows you to put reds in or oranges or blues or so you have a little more variety of color as a result of being in the city. I'm going to set up right here and take the view towards the buildings and the canoes for today.
Now that we're set up, what is it about this spot that's helpful when you get to actually painting?
So one of the things that's helpful is the fact that it's level. I have a tripod that can adjust itself a little bit, but you don't want to go too far out. So it's level. I can step back, which is helpful because that's helpful when you're painting. I'm not in the way of anyone that would want to walk the path behind me. So that's the reason why I chose this spot, because it is safe. I can see what it is that I'm looking at. I'm on level ground. I'm not going to fall over when I step back. So all of those things are bits that you keep in mind.
Okay, so one thing I've noticed is I kind of expected this to be a canvas, but this is wood. Yeah. Why is that?
Because if the sun moves, and the sun will move, at some point it's going to go through my canvas. And canvas is see-through when the sun is behind it. So wood is a better surface in that respect. So there's a couple of items out on the market that people use for plein air. This is a wood panel that is actually has a little bit of a width to it. Some people just use the flat wood panels. There's canvas out there that actually has a backing to it. And you could work on canvas if you put a piece of cardboard behind. So there's ways of doing it, but I actually prefer the wood surface. And I've prepped it with some gesso, which makes it a good surface to paint on. But it's not necessarily, I work on this one, but I know people that have used wool to make a plein air painting. So it became a woolscape. And I've seen people use stained glass to make a landscape. So it doesn't necessarily need to be this kind of a setup or this kind of material to make it plein air.
I imagine it comes with some drawbacks too. Like I just imagine being in the woods, you've got bugs, you've got leaves, you've got all sorts of things flying around.
Yeah, and there's bugs in paintings at the end of the whole thing. So you kind of try to pick them off, and if that doesn't work because it would mess up your painting, then you wait till it's dry and hopefully you can wipe them out. But there's a Van Gogh painting that has a full cricket in it.
What? Cool.
Yeah, yes, go find it.
Yeah, I guess like it just becomes a mixed media.
It becomes mixed media for sure, yes.
Okay, so just standing here, one thing I've noticed is that the sun is changing. It's sunny and then it's cloudy. Is that a challenge for you when you're trying to paint that one scene?
Yeah, it is. But you know that that's going to happen because even if you start at 9 o'clock, by 12 o'clock, that sun has changed. Even if it's a completely sunny day without any clouds. So yes, at some point you have to decide whether or not you want to keep it sunny or whether you want to keep it cloudy and just go with it and stick with it. Because otherwise you're just keep on chasing the light, which is never a good plan because by the end you end up with a mess. So at some point you have to decide. So yeah, I will probably pick a sort of a medium cloud in between, because that's the general gist of what we've had this morning.
Well, and I assume the changing weather is a hazard too, with rain and sunshine. And what are kind of the things you're thinking about around you that can get in the way?
Well, bugs going to get in the way. So if it's a buggy season, bug spray is a given. If it's very sunny, you make sure that you've got sunscreen on you. You've got water with you to stay hydrated. You've got a hat on so that you're not getting the sun in your eyes. So those are the things that are really affecting you as a person. But then there's other things as well. So if you have a field with cows and you happen to be in the field, cows are very, very curious, so they come. So you need to be aware of those things. The other thing is, when you're in populated areas, people like to talk. And I don't mind talking to people, but I'm also trying to work. So it's trying to find that balance between having a nice conversation and not being rude for saying, please let me just get on with what it is that I'm doing.
When you only have 3 hours.
When you only have 3 hours, yes. So I actually have a t-shirt that says, shh, can't talk right now.
It's a really good idea. It's possible people haven't heard plein air before, but once you hear that term, you start hearing it everywhere and seeing it everywhere. Tell me about the popularity of this style.
So it's become really popular in the last couple of years. I would say last couple of decades. Before it was kind of known by the Impressionists and by the Group of Seven. People had heard about it that way. But in the last couple of years, it's become extremely popular to just go out and paint. And in places like the States, people literally, move from one festival to the other, to the other, to the other, and go year-round painting plein air. It's not as popular yet here in Canada, but it's growing. So more and more people are picking up their brushes and going outside.
So for those people who are just starting off, what's your best advice for how to get started?
Well, if you've never painted before, I would advise to take a couple of classes first. Glenhurst is a place where, that offers classes. People like myself have classes in their studio. So find someone whose work you like and then take some classes from them. But once people, have a sense of what painting can do, try to go outside for once. Don't spend all your money on a big, easel setup like this, but just pick up a very cheap easel, go outside, drag your stuff out and start painting and see what it might get to you. So when you're outside and you see a scene like this, it's really overwhelming because there's the bridge, there's the water, there's the sky, what do you pick? So one of the things that I say to my students often is, pick what fits behind your hand. So if you stretch out your arm and you turn your hand, one way and the other, so above and below and onto all sides, that is what would fit on your painting and would feel like a logical scene that doesn't have problems with perspective or areas that feel off.
That's such good advice. Actionable.
Yes, and it's easy because you always have it with you. So you don't have to have the viewfinder or you can do that with your fingers.
It's a tool you don't have to carry in.
No, exactly.
It's there already. Jeanette, what's the big takeaway here? What do you want people to remember about plein air?
Well, plein air for me is a pure joy. You're out in nature, you have beautiful views, you're creating art. What's not to like about it? To me, it's like breathing. It's like breathing in and breathing out. It's relaxing, even though you're working really hard and then you're tired at the end. It's still, that sense of space and that sense of I can breathe. This is art and this is nature. Like what's not to like, really?
If you enjoyed this episode, please click the subscribe button below. Give us a like or visit our channel for more videos in the Glenhurst Art Teach series. You can also stay up to date with everything Glenhurst at glenhurst.ca.